If you're on the same side of Twitter that I'm on, bad start, but hear me out. If you're on the same side of Twitter that I'm on, then you may have heard of this new technology called NeRFs, or neural radiance fields. And essentially what it is a method of 3D scanning objects, very similar to photogrammetry. Now, essentially what photogrammetry is doing is taking 2D images and common points between them, plus a heckload of calculations to create a 3D object. Whereas with NeRFs, it's essentially taking 2D images plus using machine learning to kind of approximate the points between those images to create a 3D model. Now, that is a dangerous oversimplification of what it is. If you want a full, kind of more detailed explanation, you'll find one right here. But there are certain places where photogrammetry falls where NeRFs just so happen to excel. And that's mainly in shiny / metallic objects. You see, with photogrammetry, it's nearly impossible to capture any sort of or mirrored or even see-through object. But because NeRFs are using machine learning, they're actually able to approximate those reflections to a stunning degree. So with all of this information, it kind of begs the question, are NeRFs going to replace photogrammetry? And I hope to answer that by the end of this video. How am I going to be doing that? Basically, I'm going to take two apps. For photogrammetry, I'm going to use Polycam, which is one of my favorite apps for photogrammetry. It does so much more than that, but photogrammetry is one of its kind of strong points. And for NeRFs, I'm going to take Luma AI, which is, as far as I know, as I'm recording this, the only app that really dabbles in this so well. And for what it's worth, it is also an incredible app. Now, I do want to mention that this isn't going to be the most scientific comparison. In fact, I'm going to steer clear of any sort of criticism whatsoever. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that NeRFs are such a new technology that honestly, it's just something that I'm excited about, and it's something that I want to show you guys and share with you. I'm not really going to be taking these two head to head, but instead just taking the sort of classic method and this new method and just seeing how they compare. So that being said, I took all the scans in each respected app so that I can kind of make things as fair as I could. And well, let's just take a look and see how they did. So I wanted to start with something that I thought both apps would do quite well at. So it's kind of a basic item. Geometry is not too complex. It's well lit and it's all very sort of matted texture. And knowing me, you may have guessed, yes, it's a shoe. So this is my own Nike shoe. You'll see it is a lovely mint green Air Force One, brand new. So I thought it was the perfect time to scan as I have not mucked it up yet. But let's just take a quick look at what Polycam has done. So first off, you will notice that the overall shape and geometry and whatever you else want to call it looks flawless. Like it is almost like having the real thing just in my hands right now. If we zoom in here, you will see that the textures, the detail is like phenomenal. Now you'll see this is like a suede shoe. So there are some artifacts just kind of around here where you'll notice that the sort of stitching wasn't entirely perfect, but like everything else looks near flawless. When I first saw this, I was so impressed. And like I said, this wasn't a hard object to scan, but even still, I was just so terribly impressed by what this did. One area where I think it just came out so nicely was in the laces here. Even just the way it separated them out all automatically, and there's just so much detail going on. And especially here, now this is something we'll see in the NeRF later on, but the Nike swoosh here, that orange swoosh, the color has been reproduced so accurately that it is honestly just an astonishing result. Even you can see there's a little bit of artifacting here where there's a little bit of blurriness, but from afar, if you were to use this for sort of a product to shoot, you'd never notice. But even just some of the detail in the materials here just honestly blows my mind. Now, it is similar to the NeRF, but you'll see later on at the NeRF that when I move it around, it kind of interacts differently with the light, which is one of the main benefits of NeRFs. So this looks great. Let's check out the NeRF. The first thing I noticed right off the bat is that similarly, the shape, the way it's cut out the object, unreal. I think it just looks flawless. But the further we zoom in, you'll see that it is just slightly lacking the detail that the photogrammetry had. And I did these pretty much exactly one after another. It was both taken on my iPhone, but you'll see, this is why I made such a big deal of it in the other, when we were looking at Polycam, is that the detail and the color reproduction of the logo here is just not up to the same quality that Polycam is producing. Now, some of that could be down to the way that Luma AI actually gets you to scan the objects, where it pretty much creates these 3 rings and that you have to follow in a very specific way to actually capture the object. Whereas with Polycam, it's a little bit more devil may care in that it lets you create the route. And so this kind of leaves it up. There's a lot more at risk, or there's a greater chance of you making a mistake, essentially. But what that means is that you can get as close as you want to, you can go from any angle that you want to, and so you have the opportunity to capture a lot more. Now, Luma AI does have the option to upload pre-captured footage to create your NeRF out of. So if you're looking for more detailed results, you can absolutely do that. And in fact, you don't even need to shoot that on your phone. You can shoot that on a camera like this in super high quality 4K. But of course, I wanted to keep each comparison as fair as I could, so I captured them within both. Now, if you would like to see me do a full review of both apps, just let me know down below. I am a big fan and just love playing around with them, so that's something that I would definitely look forward to doing. But anyway, we are seeing just tremendous results here either way. And if you see here, one thing you'll notice is that when I actually move around the NeRF, you can see the actual color and the lighting change the same way it would as if it were reacting in the room at the time. And that is where the secret of NeRF's powers are held. Essentially what we're seeing here is a really, really dense point cloud. And basically each of these points are changing color as we rotate around them. Now that is, again, an oversimplification of what's really going on, but that level of detail and intricacy is what is not available in photogrammetry whatsoever. This is all AI is doing. So it's this level of interactivity that makes NeRFs so exciting and what makes them revolutionary for things like VFX, 3D art, or even game design and creation. Now, one of the downsides I noticed when I was going through this was how long it took Luma AI to process the NeRF versus Polycam. You see, with Polycam, all you're doing is uploading all the images to their database, their computers work it out, they send it back to you. With Luma, however, with every scan, you pretty much have to train the NeRF on the images that you've taken for it to spit out a result. And that can take upwards of at least 25 minutes with this scan. The one big upside though of using Luma AI versus Polycam though, is that at this current moment, Luma AI is totally free. You don't need to spend anything to be able to export out any of the formats that you'll see right here. Whereas with Polycam, to use the app initially is free and you can export it in certain formats. But if you want to export it in GLTF or OBJ, then you do have to get the Pro subscription, which I believe is around $75 US a year. So that is maybe one thing to consider if you are looking at getting either of these apps. So that's enough of the shoe. Let's go and look at something else, which I think demonstrates where NeRFs can be very powerful. This here is a scan I did of an aluminium can just the other day, and you'll see while the detail is a little smudgy, it's a little rough, the actual reproduction of the shape is near flawless. Really, really impressive. You can see even as we shift around where the light changes, you can see the reflections changing accurately in real time. Whereas if we go over to the same scan in Polycam, you will see where photogrammetry falls down, where this can kind of just looks like it's been sitting in the back of a truck for a few days. It's crumpled, it's muddy. Yes, the actual detail of the graphics looks great. I can't deny that. It looks truly excellent. Especially if you look up here, the detail in the metal just looks phenomenal. But the actual reproduction, especially all this, is a little muddy. So those are the kind of places where we're seeing NeRFs really excel. And I am barely scratching the surface on any of this. I'm going to link a few Twitter accounts down in the description, which I think are worth following if you want to find out more about this stuff, because like I said, it is just so cool and just so new. And that kind of brings me to my next point. NeRFs are tremendously new. So with photogrammetry, you're able to scan your object and spit out something like an OBJ, which you can bring straight into Blender, kind of like we saw in my last video. Now, that's all great, and you can do the same with NeRFs, but with NeRFs, the downside being, once you spit it out as an OBJ, you lose all of that dynamic light interactivity, and essentially you're just left with a standard model. So basically where we are at the moment is that there are no engines or platforms that can actually interact with NeRFs. There's nothing that we can use in this moment aside from Luma AI and other NeRF softwares that you can actually take advantage of all this interactivity. But I have no doubt that is going to change hugely in the future. Now, earlier on, I asked, will NeRFs actually replace photogrammetry? And I can confidently say it doesn't matter. At least not right now. That's not what's interesting to me. What's interesting to me is the fact that this is such a huge leap in technology that is very much still in its infancy, that we have no idea how that's actually going to impact the creative worlds that I mentioned a little bit earlier on, like VFX, 3D art, and game design. I've gotten some amazing results from photogrammetry, so have a lot of people. It's been around for a long time, and I have no doubt that it's gonna stick around a lot longer. But I think it's just safe to say that where we are right now is a very exciting time, and I have no doubt that the future is very bright for both formats. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, let me know if you're interested in any other type of video. My name has been Robin, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.